Rolling.
Okay, hello. I'm Jan Rajensky, Director of Instruction in the Walnut Creek School District, and we're here today to interview our 7 teachers who have been leaders in our elementary furniture pilot. We're so fortunate that we've been able to take this time to experience the pilot furniture with our students. Connie McCarley, Assistant Director of Education Support Services, and the team of teachers have learned a lot along the way. It is really exciting to see our district modernizing our classroom environments. As Connie says, it's really not just about the furniture. And so now I'm gonna pass it over to Connie to begin this conversation.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you everybody for joining us. We have a great panel of 7 pilot teachers that have led the way for our district in this project. Each of these teachers have been working in different grade levels across the district, trialing different furniture, which is designed to support the pedagogical shifts in our classrooms. Some of the features and functions that we're looking for in classroom settings are layered options, which provide students the ability to find a posture that supports their physical comfort, such as a standing height, seated height, and floor seating. We're also looking for mobility so that we can quickly convert the classroom space from one mode to another. And we're looking for furniture that supports an active, student-centered learning space where students act as agents in their own learning and have ease of access to the learning tools and configurations that they need throughout the day. As such, each classroom has vetted a variety of furnishings, including student seating options, varied tables and desks, soft seating, and storage solutions. Most items are on casters to provide that mobility. And now I'd like to introduce each of our pilot teachers. If you would please state your name, grade level, and school.
Cut for 1 sec, and then pick up. I'm gonna walk out. That way I'm not cutting it. But I can cut and paste anything. So, and
Okay. Carolyn McIntosh, kindergarten at Parkmead Elementary.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Elizabeth Sisson, SDC class TK, kinder and first at Buena Vista Elementary.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Paula Rathert, first grade at Merwood School.
Thank you, Paula.
Megan Warriott, second grade, Buena Vista.
Thank you.
Carrie Wilson, second grade, Walnut Heights. Robin Reese, 4th and 5th grade at Parkmead Elementary School. Brittany for at 5th grade at Indian Valley Elementary School.
Thank you, Brittany. All right, what a great, strong panel of speakers we have joining us today. I'm gonna go ahead and get us started with our first question. And Megan, I'm gonna start with you. If you can share with us, as a teacher, what's been the biggest challenge for teaching in this new environment?
So I think for me in teaching with this furniture, the biggest challenge was probably the management. Giving the kids the choice to actually choose seats was something that I hadn't really done before. And so that was definitely something I had to let go of and give them the choice to choose where they wanted to sit. And they really ended up surprising me, and most of the time can now pick seats where they are doing their best learning and their best work, and choosing seats away from people that might distract them or keep them from learning. So that was a big thing for me to overcome as this new furniture started coming in to my classroom.
Yeah, it's definitely a paradigm shift, right? We're used to having our classrooms set up with name tags and certain seats, and that's the student's seat for a given duration. How did you manage when they were able to choose moving from one seat to another?
At the beginning, I had them try out each of the seats. So like one day they would have one type of seat, the next day they'd try out a second type of seat. We had floor seating, we had the shorter stools, taller stools, some comfy benches that kind of look like a diner. So they tried them all out, and then I ended up going with like a weekly schedule, so the kids would rotate, and every week on Mondays they would pick a new seat, and it would rotate who picked first every week, and that seems to be working out pretty well. So it's kind of a happy medium between having some choice, but then also having some structure as far as like where they're staying for the week. So that's been working out good.
Great, thank you. Robin, I'm going to come to you with the same question. So what's been the biggest challenge for teaching in the new environment for you?
teaching, I was thinking, and I don't know if this means for teaching, having the store, there's necessary storage for their books and notebooks. I think that that was a little, I had to really think out of the box of how I was gonna have them have their bins. We call them bins. And I know I was talking to Brittany, and she was assigning kids once a week as well around the room, and they would take their bin and they might put it under a cabinet where they were sitting, or they might go put it next to where their stool was sitting. And I think it took me a while to figure out a good way to solve that issue.
And so what did you land on?
We switched, and so I have larger bins. I had these small bins, which was hard for 4th and 5th grade because they've got these huge books that they were reading. And so we switched bins, and so I started using the larger bins for the kids, and that worked. And then I talked to Brittany, and she had a different way, which I thought was great, where she had, like, the writing books were in a bin, and then her reading books were in a bin. So I think it's what I like the fact that it worked for her, and that was a great way, and it worked differently for me, and that was a great way. I just, it's how you teach. I like that flexibility and having them, we can do it in different ways.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth, I'm gonna come over to you and ask, what are some of the challenges that you experienced with students in the new environment?
In an SDC classroom, we have very active students. And so, knowing that, one of the challenges that we knew would be a challenge, and just kind of learning how to deal with it appropriately, is some of my students like to climb. So some of our bookshelves or storage units are a little bit taller, and some of my students might move things closer so they could get to the highest point in the room. But then, on the other hand, we also have some more soft seating. We have a couch type seating area that is appropriate for climbing. And we have these rainbows that are soft and on the ground, and they're appropriate for climbing and falling and jumping and playing on. So it is a challenge, but it also gives us a teaching opportunity behaviorally to guide the students off of the inappropriate climbing area to the appropriate climbing area. And although that is something that we face regularly, it's a good teaching moment. It's something that we do need to do repetitively. So it's good for the students.
Excellent, thank you so much. And Carrie, same question for you. What challenges have you experienced with students in this new environment?
In 2nd grade, the biggest challenge that I've seen is still choosing to sit next to their friends, and then having to break that up. I'm constantly reminding them to make really good choices on who they sit next to. So it's more of like the management piece that Megan was talking about in 3rd grade. The other challenge that I've seen is that we have soft seating in our room, and it's the kids absolutely love it, but oftentimes I have to talk to the kids about how to sit on them appropriately. They'll lay down, they kind of put their head over, and I'm not sure if it's because they're engaged still, so I don't know if it's me just thinking like, that looks a little lazy, or I'm not sure if they're doing the best work that they can. But that's been a challenge for me, is more of like breaking up the friends and reminding them to choose to sit next to people that they're gonna get the best work done, but then also choosing an appropriate seat that you're going to also get the best work done and focus and sit appropriately.
I notice a lot of you use that term with your students. Is this your best learning space, or is this how you learn best? And you really ask those reflective questions. It leads me to think that this is really supporting some social emotional learning as part of the pilot program for the furniture, because the students really need to build that self-awareness. Can you speak a little bit to that, Carrie, just to extend on your answer? How do you connect that self-awareness when you're having those conversations with students about making those best choices?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was a little bit hesitant about 2nd graders making that choice because they are still quite young, but they surprised me as well. I don't have to talk to them very often about making a good choice. I mean, every once in a while I'll give them friendly reminders, gentle reminders about, you know, where they, I don't ever choose where they sit, but I do give them recommendations on like who they should be sitting next to because it's not a best fit. But for the most part, they make those choices really well. I mean, they even for second grade, they know too. I mean, if I have to give them a reminder, they'll hop up and they'll find another spot, and they love to go and work in the little cave where they can be by themselves because sometimes they just need that. But for the most part, it's not really a conversation that I need to be explicit with them about. By second grade, they actually do know, okay, I need to move my spot and I know that I'm not doing the best work that I can here, so.
Thank you so much. All right, Carolyn. Your question is, what surprised you after working with the new furniture over time? So what was, going into this, I thought this, but actually this.
Yeah, very good question. One of the pieces that I have is a big cube where the kids actually has mirrored all the way around, and it's for the kids to sit in, and I saw that and I thought, no way, they're gonna be climbing on top of it, they're gonna be inside looking at themselves in the mirror, and going over, especially with kindergarten, going over procedures day after day after day with kindergarten, they actually will go in there, they'll take their iPads in there, they'll read in there, and I rarely ever have to ask someone to get out for not using it appropriately. So that's one thing. And also I have some chairs that swirl around, call them swirly chairs. And once again, using the procedures, I thought, oh, they're just gonna be going around and around and around, but once, you know, feet on the ground and they can swirl back and forth, and they actually were able to handle that. And I don't ever have to ask them to get off now.
Great.
So that's
Thank you. Surprising.
very surprising.
Yes, in a good way.
With 5-year-olds.
In a good way, great. Megan, I'm gonna ask you that same question. So what surprised you after working with the furniture that you thought would be one way and it turned out different?
I think just the I don't know. I guess what surprised me the most was just their ability to really handle it. This was definitely out of my comfort zone, and I was very hesitant to, as I said earlier, release that responsibility to them. And so I think that's kind of what really surprised me the most was their ability to, after being, you know, having some lessons in ways to choose good seats, ways to pick who you're gonna sit next to, once they've kind of had that instruction, they really rose to the occasion, and I feel like most of them are also doing their best work in those seats. So I feel like it's helped with their learning as well. So
Excellent, thank you. Kira, you wanted to add on?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I was worried in second grade that I was going to, my kids get to choose wherever they wanna sit all throughout the day. So they don't, the home base that they have is on the carpet, and then any time that they go out to do writer's workshop or reader's workshop, they can choose anywhere they wanna sit around the room. And I was really worried at the beginning that there were kids that were going to keep choosing the same spot, or you know, think that if this person keeps choosing the spot, it's unfair to them. But it's amazing that they really, you know, if they have that spot, a particular spot for the morning, whether it's a high stool, a standing table, then they know that the next lesson that we do, whether it's readers or math, that they have to choose another spot. So I was surprised that they really worked it out themselves, and I thought there were maybe going to be some more arguments or whatnot, but it actually has worked out really wonderful. So
That's great, and it's great that you gave them the opportunity to see that they could do that.
yeah.
Wonderful. All right, Robin, I'm gonna come to you. So, one of the features that we studied when looking to design these classrooms was based on the work from David Thornburg's theory of campfire, watering hole, and cave. In his theory, the campfire offers a huddle space for direct instruction in the classroom. The watering hole provides a space for small group collaboration where students can share ideas with each other. And the cave is where students can go to be a little bit more solo and think independently and work independently. With that in mind, what's been the most beneficial feature in your new environment, and which has been the least beneficial?
So the most beneficial, I think, is a campfire. I have soft seating around the front, and there's a different rug out in the front, so it's kind of makes it's a little bit cozy, and it's a space where everybody can gather. At that point, they can have maybe 4 people on one of the big, we call them stadium seats, where they kind of come up, and so everybody can gather. And it's surprising sometimes, especially with 5th graders, and they might feel a little like that's too babyish to sit on the floor, but they come in, and that's where all the really the big work gets done, and it's worked really well for me. Least beneficial, okay, this is really minor, but we have very small tables. Now, if they have a poster that they're working on, it's very hard because of the ledges to have like a nice big flat surface. And as they gather as a group, but that's super minor. And the kids are like, "Oh, we've got this. We'll put clipboards on the floor. We got this." And so it's other than that, it's been really good.
Excellent, thank you.
Pause, Connie. Pause for 1 second. Everybody breathe.
I'm going to Paula.
Doing good. Okay.
All right, Paula, same question for you. What do you find to be the most beneficial and least beneficial furniture piece in your setting in first grade?
Okay, so I've been letting them choose seats for years, and I've still come across some of the same problems that everybody else mentioned, like encouraging them to make those good choices and rolling it out to teach them how to make those choices and what's your best learning environment. So what's been most beneficial is having, I think, a lot of caves. So I have, they've found ways to create their own caves because they have that freedom and independence, and because they have the choice, which is such a powerful thing to give them, to let them choose, even if they choose poorly and have to be redirected, to give them the power of choice to go sit at one of the individual tables by themselves, or to just grab a clipboard and go sit in the corner by the door. So even with 1 or 2 kind of cave settings, they've learned to make their own caves and to just go and find that spot by themselves when they need it, which has been great. There's some kids and some days where they just really need time by themselves, or I let them know that maybe they'd work better by themselves, and then they've gotten done much better once they have that solo spot. So not just having the caves, but teaching them how to find that spot for themselves has been really beneficial. I don't know about least beneficial, because we're always readjusting, and I know every time you come in, you see I've moved it a different way to see if maybe it'll work a little bit better. I want to see the teacher desk, because I just let them have it, right? So I almost don't need it in the room. I feel like it takes up space. Some of the cabinets have been really large, and so having to work around that and get rid of some storage because it was too cluttered. I'm wanting to have more open spaces and more room to move, and so removing pieces has made that better.
Yeah, I think that was a really pivotal time in our pilot process, was when we came in, because we did overbuy for each of the classrooms purposely, so that we would have an opportunity to try all these different pieces. And after a few weeks, we recognized that it definitely was too crowded in most of your classrooms, and allowed you to select some items to thin, so that we created that space. And I feel like once that was done, it really allowed your pedagogy to shift even further, because you weren't constrained by those extra pieces in your spaces. And it was interesting to see how each of you selected to thin different items based on the needs of your classroom, and that's going to be really important to inform our next steps in this project. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go over to Brittany. Brittany, one feature of a modern classroom with flexible seating options is that there's not necessarily a hard work surface or a desktop for every student. Tell us about how that's worked for you in your classroom.
Well, I think at first, students that are used to having that hard desktop surface are like, wait, what? I don't get a table. And so they're a little bit thrown off, especially if they haven't been in like a flexible seating or a flexible learning environment in years prior. Being in 5th grade, some of those kids have had the opportunity to explore different types of flexible learning environments, maybe in 4th, depending on the teacher. But not having a hard desk has been pretty wonderful. I actually got rid of tons of desks that we had. I mean, I think I had 24 desks at the beginning, so almost one per student. And I only now have 12, I think. So I got rid of like almost half of them, which has given us a lot more a lot more space in the classroom, a lot more freedom for them to then move, being that the desks are on wheels and the ones that have the hard surface, students can kind of move them around, they can work better in groups. It gives the teacher and the students better ability for like the caves and the watering holes and those smaller spaces for them to work. So too many desks and too many hard surfaces, I think are not very beneficial. You don't need it. There's so many other places in the room where it has a hard surface. We have a ledge underneath our windowsill where kids will go up and work. They'll throw a pillow on the floor and they're comfortable there. We use actually the top of our bookshelf. We have these rounded bookshelves that form a cave, and they'll stand right there and use the top of the bookshelf as their hard surface. So it's not that they need the desk itself to find a hard surface in the classroom, which has been nice.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that oftentimes adults who work from home will find themselves cozied up on the couch, you know, with their laptop and working there, very productive.
Yes.
And yet we expect students to sit straight up and down in chairs all day, right?
Well, and I talked to my class about, you know, you walk into Starbucks or Pete's or any coffee shop where a lot of people like to work and be productive. And do you see a lot of people sitting straight up at desks with chairs? And, you know, they respond with no. And so, this was in my explanation of why are we doing this? What's the purpose? Because not everybody learns best at a desk with a chair and sitting straight up. You know, cozied up at the couch with your laptop is just fine.
Yeah.
For some people.
A lot of people, when they hear about the fact that there's not a desk surface for every student, worry when it comes to state testing. I know we haven't gotten there yet. We won't know that until the spring, although we've looked at some research around it. What are your thoughts, and I'm going to open this up to anybody, what are your thoughts about how your students will be able to manage state testing if they don't have a traditional desk setting?
So I did this in the past. I've been doing some flexible learning. I've been doing this for a little while without the actual pilot furniture. And I have kids scattered about the classroom. I have some kids that are at a table. I have some kids that are on the floor in the caves, and they're spread out enough. The tests are different. They can't really cheat. So, you know, it's really where they're comfortable. It's not what it once was. The world's changing every day, and our classrooms have to change with it.
Thank you. Paula?
So even in 1st grade, and we don't do the state testing yet, just giving a math assessment, students will grab a clipboard and I'll spread them out around the room. So some are at tables, some are on one of the chairs. There's kids at the windowsill, like you mentioned, that's one of their favorite spots. And they'll grab a clipboard and their pencil and the assessment. Same idea, they're spread out, they're not near anybody else, they can't see anybody else's paper, and they can still perform and show me what they know really easily.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Brittany, I'm going back to you for this one. What's been the greatest benefit to student learning in your new environment?
I would say just the ability for the students to feel as though they have a little bit more freedom in the classroom. I feel like sometimes students don't feel like they have a say or they don't have a voice, and I feel like with the pilot furniture, it gives them more of a voice. I open it up to my kids. We redo the classroom like Paula was saying all the time. I'm like, hey, help me. They have such great ideas. And I think years ago, you know, it's like you come to school, you sit down, you work. They don't really have a say, but they feel like they have some sort of control in the environment that they're in. And I think that's one of the best things that has been about this project.
Thank you. Robin, how has the new furniture impacted or enhanced your instructional practice?
It's changed it a lot, and I just want to mirror what Brittany said about I feel like they're they're more empowered. I think it's very true, and I think that they own it a little bit better. I find that I used to, sit in the front of the room with all my desks out in the middle, and please don't ever put something where I can't see you because I'm afraid of what you're gonna do. And I trust them. Knock on wood, I haven't had any problem with the cave. I mean, they get in there, they sneak read sometimes. They're reading something wrong, and it's like,
There'll be some messes here and there.
yeah, but it's not anything.
Yeah.
I've heard teachers like, I would never let them be in a place where I can't see. And I think there's a big trust between us that they're gonna do what they need to do. Again, just being able to have that beautiful campfire place instead of row 3, what do you say, what you're doing, and then being able to turn and talk much more quickly right in there. And so I think that's really changed my teaching, the campfire issue.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like it's really helped in 2 ways. Like, it sounds like it's really helped to build community in your classroom, being at the campfire. But also, I like how you mentioned the trust, because that really helps you make a connection with your students, right?
Yes, you talked about the social and emotional learning, and it really had me thinking. And I think it's super powerful that they have these choices, and they're making them, and then they're also sharing. Oh, I was here today. You can be here to. So I should go, or I've been here, so you take it, or, oh, come sit with me because I've got the stadium seating, so you can come sit with me too. And I think it's just been, I think that is a big impact in how they treat the room and how they treat each other within the room.
Yeah, they're really learning some social navigation
I do,
skills.
I
as
really
a part
do.
Of it. Yeah.
I think that is true.
Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second. So you guys want to did you guys want to come back? Would you do the pause?
Look at me. I want your picture. And I want to listen, but I don't want to be seen.
You're in a good spot then. I'm not
You're behind the camera.
in the back.
Jan's look at her.
You gonna stay there, Ruben, or?
Yeah, you can't see me from here. I'm just grabbing extra videos to
Okay, I'll
sharpen the videos a bit.
All right, so Carolyn wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you had said something, Carolyn, kindergarten again, and you had said something about you were trusted the kids, like going into the caves. Well, to be honest with you, for 5-year-olds, the same thing. I was like, oh, that gotta see a 5-year-old all the time. And for the most part, I do. But I have to say, if they're in a spot where I can't see them, and they're doing what they're supposed to be, I'm always kind of peeking around, okay, and then, like you said, I've earned their trust that they can stay there. If I peek around and they're doing that they're not, then, oh, you might need to find another spot. So I feel like even for the 5th grader, that also works for the kindergartners too, in that trust.
I think it's important to give students the opportunity to develop that responsibility.
Yes.
Right, for
Yes.
their choices.
Right.
And what a great way to do that. Thank you. I'm gonna move over to Paula again. Paula, how does this modern learning environment support equity in your classroom?
No one's in the same spot all the time. Everybody gets to choose. They get to, like you were saying, like have those conversations about, well, that's fair. You were there, it's my turn. It doesn't always work out great. Sometimes we need a little coaching. But just to share, to have the same opportunities to sit in the same places. We actually, with the big square couch thingy, I'm not sure what to call that, I set up a schedule because it was really hard for them. The certain kids always wanted to sit there, and so you know what day you have a turn on, and you always sit there on your day. I know I've had parents say that their kid has said, today's Thursday, I get my turn on the couch, and they know, I think that they appreciate that it's fair as well, and that they don't feel like so-and-so was always on the couch, I don't get a turn. They always get turns to sit and work where they want to work, and when they don't, they get to have those conversations about it.
And Elizabeth, in an SDC setting, not every student comes with the same skill set to school. So how does the classroom setting support equity for the special needs in your classroom?
Well, one thing, I guess the way that we do a lot of our group activities, it's around, we have a circular, it's 2 tables put together, 2 semicircles, but we've made a circle. And I think it's a little more inviting, and then we have various seating options for the students, but then it's also open, so the students feel comfortable to come to the table and choose an appropriate seat, but then also they do have a little room to stretch. Like, for example, I have one student, he might jump up and down a little bit after he does a really good job, and that's good for him. So we have a space for that, but he comes back to the table, which is monumental for him to be able to have that space to go, stretch his legs, and then come back to the table as opposed to run away. And so I think that the circular piece lets them feel like they can all bring something to the table, because before, when we did group lessons, we didn't have that circle, and like it just goes back to even an art therapy standpoint. It's like a mandala, it brings, it centers, and I think it helps them a lot. So it's nice. And then just different seating.
Having the choices of different seating as well.
Yes, so if they want to wobble, they can wobble. They have the seats that they can turn around backwards, and so if they want to sit backwards and have the back of the chair, they can kind of do a little give and take, and that helps some of those that need movement, but not too much movement. And some of them need a good old sturdy chair, and that works too.
Yeah. Thank you. And Megan would like to add on.
Yeah, I think sometimes I have to remind myself that equity doesn't always mean equal. And I've noticed that even though I rotate in 2nd grade with my kids and when they choose seats, the kids that pick first don't always go to the same seats. So like whatever group is picking first, the couches are often popular, but they don't always go to the couches. They go to what really works for them. And so they're getting to choose a place that's gonna be best for them. And that's, I think, more what equity is them being able to have what works for them and not what works for everyone.
And recognizing that it's different for
Yeah.
different individuals.
Right,
And having
exactly.
those options
Yeah.
available. Thank you.
Mhm.
And Brittany wanted to add on?
And I was just gonna add on to that, like in 5th grade, it gives them the ability to have these conversations with other students and have these respectful conversations and say, hey, you were there yesterday, or hey, can I sit there, And so it gives them the ability to have these conversations. A lot of the times they wouldn't, have that. And so I just wanted to add on to that and say, it gives them some more social emotional learning in a way, and kind of opens up for them to talk to maybe students that they wouldn't normally talk to. So
Did you want to add to
I
that,
was
Carrie?
just gonna say what Brittany was saying.
Oh,
I read
pleasure.
that 2nd grade, well, last year they had table groups, so a majority of the people they collaborated with were their table group members, because they were in those table groups for a month. But the flexible seating has really provided, equity in the sense of, like, because they get to choose spots throughout the room all throughout the day, they're talking with everybody in the classroom. They're not just with their table group members anymore, they're talking with all different peers, which has really been great. It's been really community building in a lot of ways, so.
Well, we talked a lot about this in the beginning too, about how the design is intended to support connection. So it's intended to support the students' connection to self and that self-awareness so that they can make the proper choices for their best learning. It supports the watering holes and other configurations where they're connecting with their peers. It allows them to have ease of access to learning materials, helping that connection to their own learning. And then when you bring in the technology components as well, they're connecting their learning to the outside world and connecting themselves to the outside world. So connection is a very big part of the design that the furniture is helping to facilitate. So thank you for bringing those examples up. Megan, I'm going back to you. Why is the redesign of elementary environments important for the Walnut Creek School District?
Well, I think, it's important for kids to have a choice, as has kind of been said a few times already. I think it empowers them as students and as learners, and they're gonna be more motivated, more willing to kind of reach out of their comfort zone and maybe try things that they wouldn't have otherwise, because they're given some choice in the classroom and choice in seating, and I think it's an important thing for a district to consider.
you. Anybody want to add on to that one?
This is my 29th year teaching, mostly in first grade, and how I teach and how they learn has changed enormously in 29 years. I cringe when I think back about, some of the things we did and how I expected them to learn a long time ago, and we'll be in a group, and then there'll be a big group, and then they'll be in small groups, and then we're working individually, and then they need to go confer with a writing partner who's all the way across the room. So having the environment that allows for that, which is very different than the environment I started teaching in, makes that possible. I can't imagine trying to teach what I teach and how I teach and who I'm teaching with like an old set of desks and rows or tables with names on them, and you're gonna have to sit next to your writing buddy if this is gonna work. It serves, it fosters how we're teaching them and what they're learning because of the environment. I can't imagine doing it with the old furniture.
Carolyn, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Megan. Why is the redesign of elementary environments important for our district?
I think more, it's like you're keeping up with the times. We're into the 21st century learning, that it kind of lends itself to that. And I think back to, same, I've been teaching over 25 years as well, and the kids that I had back then, a 5-year-old then is still a 5-year-old now, but I feel like we're giving them so much more movement in the, like I said, I used to sit them at the tables and they would do their coloring or whatever they were doing. Now, if they want to do it on the rug, if they want to do it in a cave, if they want to do it in a cubby area, it just gives them that flexibility. And I feel like in my class, I have a less, once you get the procedures down, I feel like then it's kind of smooth sailing from there. I think that's important.
Can I add on to that really quickly?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to say, not only are the kids like getting to know each other more, but I feel like as a teacher, I know them more. And it's building that community. And I feel like having that in the Walnut Creek School District is huge for teachers to feel connected to their students. And it's not only gonna help the social emotional part of it, but it's gonna help them learn. If they trust you, if they respect you, if you can have a conversation with them, I just feel like it opens up to have more conversations with students, kind of going off what she was saying.
Absolutely, thank you. Robin, what suggestions do you have for introducing students to their new learning environment?
I think the procedures are a big thing. So that was probably one of my mistakes well, and I don't know if it was a mistake, it was just a learning opportunity. It was like, I didn't know what I was expecting, or expecting them what to do. And so I had to like back up and say, oh wait, you can only have 2 people on the couch at this time, or please don't move the furniture or if you move it back. It was just being aware, just being, I guess, giving yourself grace to like, okay, I need to back up and change this because I had no clue what this was going to happen at first. So I think that was the biggest challenge.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody want to add on to that? Go ahead, Carrie.
I think also having student buy-in, like we brainstormed a lot of like, well, what are some good rules that we could have with this furniture? And I think that really helped in the very beginning, was getting them comfortable with the furniture, trying everything out, but then also like, okay, let's all build this together. Like, how can we use the furniture appropriately? And so that really helped at the very beginning.
And I believe you had some sessions too where you came back together and said, okay guys, how's it working?
Yes.
Right? What's your
Yeah.
feedback? What's working, what's not working?
Yeah.
And how can
Yeah.
we address that? So
Yeah, absolutely.
that was really effective as well.
For sure.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Paula?
And for first grade, every year at the beginning of the year, we take turns, like someone else was mentioning, on every single piece. And afterwards, we evaluate, and they'll go up on a little chart and they'll write their name under like a smiley face or a math face or frowny face. And then we talk about like why, how did that work for you, or why didn't that work for you, and have them really kind of think about why it wasn't, I need to be sitting in a chair, or I like to be around people, I don't want to be by myself, or no, I work better by myself, and really have them, even in first grade, kind of think about why that did or didn't work for them, and just be really cognizant of those choices they're making.
In the SDC, it's very similar to that, but the students we give them I gave them the opportunity to explore all the furniture, and they might play with it, and some of the chairs look like balls, so they're gonna, treat it like a ball. And we gave them the opportunity to explore as they needed, and then tried to show them, and when we teach, the expectations and things with the furniture, it might look a little bit different in our classroom, but they did learn what worked for them, and sometimes that's an evolving process, but it's neat to see, because I have some that the wobbly chair, they're gonna fall off just about every time I sit on it. And so they might wanna just check again next week, and that's okay. And then we'll, ask them, well, would you rather sit in this chair? And they do make that good choice, but sometimes they do wanna check in and see if they're ready for it. But it's fun to see, and it's fun to see them take a little responsibility that way as well.
I just want to say in fifth, it's nice to hear that what's happening in fifth grade can also happen in first grade and in kindergarten. I mean, the fact that in first grade and in kindergarten they're trying all the seats out, because that's exactly what we did in fifth grade. And to see the progression from first to fifth, and that it can be very much the same with 5-year-olds all the way to 10 and 11-year-olds is very interesting and cool. And just to kind of add on, my fifth graders, we did some kind of rearranging. So they were in charge of doing like the rearranging, kind of like Paula was saying. We like to change it up and switch things around to see what works for them. And so they had that buy-in. They rearranged the whole classroom, and then it was really cute to see afterwards. They wrote on the whiteboard for all the other, because there were a couple kids that stayed at lunch and really got into it. And they wrote on the whiteboard, we love, we like, or like, what do you love, what do you like, what do you want to change? And that was on them. And so it was really cool to see that they took the ownership and they're adding that on. So, and they're getting the feedback from their peers. They want the feedback from their peers. So.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna do our last round, and I'm gonna start with Carolyn and go down the line. You can answer both questions or just one of the questions. But after 4 months of working as pilot teachers and trying this and being the frontiers, the pioneers for our district, I'd like you to think about the work that you've done and think about what you are most proud of as your work as a pilot teacher this year. And, or answer this question, what words of advice do you have for a teacher who may be feeling apprehensive about evolving into a modern learning environment?
Carolyn, kindergarten, I'm proud that I was able to get 5-year-olds to learn procedures that I did not think that they were going to be able to learn. Kind of goes into your second question. I didn't think they were going to be able to handle a cube or handle these chairs. And you know what? Just by teaching them those procedures, they got it. And it just amazed me what a 5 and / 6-year-old could do.
Elizabeth, SDC classroom. I would say I'm most proud of being able to simplify the clutter in my classroom, because it's my second year in this classroom. I've been doing SDC a while, but for some reason, a teacher in an SDC room loves to get stuff. And so I hate to get rid of stuff, but I grasped it and I said, we're gonna simplify. And I got rid of a lot of stuff, and it feels so good, and it's better for the students, there's less distractions, and it's important. And then our shelving options, we don't have a bunch of stuff in there. They're more like a prep area. So I might prep whatever we're about to do, the activity, have it ready, or if we did something artsy, we can put it in there to dry, and it's out of the way, but it doesn't have a bunch of clutter in it and distractions and things for the students to constantly pull out. So I like having that freedom, and that again brings them back to be more engaged in our activity. And then my advice would be, go for it. Try it.
In first grade, I think the thing I'm most proud of, and I was already pretty good about just letting them try things, is just letting go even that much more. So where there's a standing rack where they put the little seated cushions, the little floor cushions, and my kids will sit in the rack where the cushions go. And initially I'm like, well, that's okay. and it's this perfect little, like I said, an additional cave that it wasn't, I don't think is intended at all as a cave. And it works really great for those students, or just routinely having my desk clear, knowing that I'm never going to be at it at all during the day. And that's another workspace for readers workshop or writers workshop, or somebody who just needs that little break during the day by themselves, or somebody who just wants to feel really good about sitting in a teacher space. Letting go of ownership of those things, or of control of those things, and handing just that little bit more over to them was hard, but a good thing. And like you said, just jump in with both feet, or look around and see what everybody else is doing, and ask a lot of questions and read up, because I feel like the more you read about it, the more articles, the more you talk to other people who are doing it, you find ways to make it work for you. You find ways to take it and then tinker with it, or just realize that, oh, other people are doing it and it works and it can be successful. So that might make you feel a little bit better about jumping in.
The craft of teaching. Yeah.
I think for me, similar to what Paula said, but just releasing that control was really big, because I am definitely type A. I like things to go a certain way. I like things planned, and I like to tell kids where they're gonna sit. And so that was really hard for me, but I think doing it, I've seen so many benefits that it's really made it worthwhile. And yeah, it was something that was challenging, but I did it, and I'm only getting positive things out of it. As far as advice, my advice would be, it's okay to take it slow. I feel like I was kind of that way. I, at first was kind of assigning seats still, and then gradually was thinking about and talking to other teachers to kind of come up with different ideas of how I might try it out, or how I might change things, or how I might release some more of that control. And so I think this kind of furniture, you can kind of do it to varying degrees, and so you can jump in slow, and then as you get more comfortable, let go of more of that. So
Thank you. Yeah. So in second grade, I'm similar to Megan as well. The biggest thing that I've learned, and that has been wonderful this year, is just really truly allowing my classroom to be a flexible seating learning environment. Last year I had a few flexible seating options, but I would assign them so the kids would get them for the week, and then we would change every week. But this year, the kids choose all throughout the day. So like I said earlier, they have a home base on the carpet, and then they get to choose wherever they want to sit and who they want to sit by. And that was, like Megan was saying, it was hard for me to release that control as well. But it has worked out so beautifully, and the kids have just absolutely enjoyed it. And it's been so fun for me to see them do that. So it's been great. And same advice, take it slow also. I mean, last year, like I said, I assigned seats, so if that's something that makes you feel comfortable, assign it for a couple days or a week, and then have them move to the next seat until you're ready to release it. But don't forget to release that and allow them to have that choice, if you can, all throughout the day, because they absolutely love it.
All of what they said. But one of the things that I was most proud of is when I first got the cabinets, I'm like, what the heck? These are so deep. And what I did, I'm really proud of the library, because what I did is, especially with 5th grade, there's so many books for their library, and I was able to store so many behind them and bring the bins up forward, and so it looks more, it's a little bit more crisp, and they can search better, and then I can move them in and out. So I was really happy about that. For advice, I think the other thing for me was not everybody has to have a hard desk, and I think that just letting go of that they can do it, they can do this. Go grab a clipboard, go find a place, and trust them, because they do step up.
Yeah, and then in 5th grade, kind of going off of that, just most proud, I would say, is being able to also talk with the parents about this and about this shift, about this movement, and being able to be so passionate about it that they can feel my passion and that they trust the process and that they trust me as the teacher to make these decisions and make these choices for my students, and for the students to make these choices for themselves, which is the biggest part of it. Also, just like Paula was saying, being okay with letting go. And I mean, half the time I'm sitting on the floor and the kids are sitting at my desk and using my high desk, and I'm like, okay, I'm also over here on the floor with you guys. And just being okay with that. advice is I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes and go big or go home.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. You guys truly are the leaders in our district through this process. You have brought so much value, not only to the students in your own classroom, but to our classrooms and our future across the district. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say that enough. And I'm going to pass it over to our superintendent who has led this charge and given us our vision to allow this to go forward. So Marie Morgan, superintendent, to close us out.
So I think in closing, I too just want to say every district has pioneers. And thank you for all of the work that you've done both individually and collectively as a group to come together and support each other. And thank you to Connie and Jan and Ruben for your leadership and bringing this group together to have those ongoing conversations. I was struck by one of the questions that you asked, Connie, about why Walnut Creek. And I think that for me in Walnut Creek, the shift that has been happening over the course of about a 3-year period of time, in that we have been empowering our students and empowering our teachers to create learning environments that truly meet the needs of every individual student, has been represented, not just by the shifts we've made in pedagogy and the shifts that we've made in the methodology of the way we teach, but now to see it come alive in each of these learning environments and to look forward to see how it continues to come alive in classroom after classroom is really just inspiring. And as your superintendent and leader in this process, I literally could not be more proud. And so I sit before you grateful for you just taking that risk and jumping right in, and to, the leadership that supports teachers to have the courage to step up and make that shift. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
You guys are
That's
so
incredible.
amazing. Dang, I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, my face I know is so red because I was just like, I'm like so overwhelmed with listening
I
to
can just
you.
feel my face blush.
You were so
That was really
amazing.
special, yeah.
So professional. So yeah, just
How lucky your students are. Thank you for just taking the ride and you three for making it happen. Oh my gosh.
That's really special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah.
thank you. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go get all your babies.